and toaster, which is super, super sweet. Hey everyone, it's Natalie, also known as Knitty Natty. Welcome to episode 207 of the Love and Stitches podcast. Today is Monday, November 27th, which makes it the last podcast of November. I have a finished object to share today. I've brought a project back to life that's been on hiatus for maybe 4 months now. And then I have my project plans, like I'm going to review what happened in November. I'm really proud of myself for all of the whips that I've knocked off my list, as well as talk about what I'm going to be doing in December and what I'm going to be bringing with me in the van. So this is our last time podcasting in Tennessee at my parents' house. That's where I am right now. That's why there's different things going on here in the background. So just try to ignore. I did bring out my really wonky, not yet decorated Christmas tree that I got at Target last week. Make it a little bit more festive in the background. But next week we will be back in the van. We will be traveling again. We're going to be in Florida for the month of December. So you can expect to see podcasts going on in the van for probably the rest of the year. Vlogmas does start tomorrow or December 1st, whenever you're watching this, but I am going to continue podcasting at least through the first half of December. So you'll still see projects coming up on here and all of that good stuff. Now, before we get into the episode, I want to thank today's podcast sponsor, Factor. I've already got enough on my plate cooking for the holidays, and that's where Factor comes in, helping me eat well with no prep and no mess. Simply make your selections and enjoy fresh, flavor-packed, ready-to-eat meals delivered to your door. Ready in just 2 minutes, they will take the hassle out of cooking for yourself this holiday season. Round out your meal and replenish your snack supply with an assortment of 45 plus add-ons to suit various preferences and tastes. You can choose from breakfast items like their delicious apple cinnamon pancakes, bacon and cheddar egg bites, or try Factor's refreshing beverage options like cold pressed juices, shakes, and smoothies. The carrot, orange, and ginger is one of my favorites, so make sure you check that one out. Head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code NATTY50 to get 50% off your first Factor box. Let's start with a finished object. I have, finished a pair of socks. Aside from blocking, they are completely done, ends woven in and everything. So this is a pair of socks that I have knit for myself with my Perfect Fit sock formula, which just means it's a vanilla sock that I have customized the stitch counts and increases and decreases throughout so that it fits me right. And I've done a fish lips kiss heel. I don't know how long this leg is, maybe 7 inches, but this is usually as tall as it gets for my socks. Whenever I make socks, I always put into the project page notes like how many stitches I'm doing and how many rows that I'm doing so that I can tweak my socks as I go. For myself, I pretty much stick to the same thing, but especially when I'm making socks for others, I'll put every single detail there in Ravelry so I know it's somewhere I can find it easily. And then I will ask them like, what do you think? How was the foot? Was it a little too long, a little too short? And then I can go and kind of usually 4-stitch or 4-row increments and make small changes throughout. That always has helped me in the past to like replicate things that I like and then tweak things that I didn't like. Now these socks I started in September. I have my project page. Let's see, September 6th to be exact. It was just after we went to Leading Men Fiber Arts in Clinton, Illinois. So this is the special colorway we did with Leading Men Fiber Arts. It's called Knitty Natty, and this is the original version that's a little more neutral background. There's also a pinker version that many of you got that's really, really beautiful too. This colorway is not available anymore. It was just an exclusive time thing, but I'm so glad to have a pair of socks that I can now always remember it. I also put this color into my Hexie blanket so that I would have it as part of my travel memories as well. So I did the first sock I guess I probably finished it in September. Actually, don't remember. And then I had a bunch of other things I was working on. I wanted to do like Halloween socks in October. That went iffy, not so well. But I basically just set aside a finished sock for a long, long time. And then last week, or 2 weeks ago rather, I cast on the second sock with the goal to finish it by the end of November. And I'm so happy to say that I did, with several days to spare. Last week I was just past the cuff. Hold on, let me flip that around. I've been getting so many comments on Instagram about this Cheez-It marker. I'm pretty sure it's from Simply Serving, but I cannot say for sure because I can't remember. I have had it for a little while, but it is actually Cheez-It size. And it totally, I mean, if it's flipped that way, you can obviously tell it's not a Cheez-It, but when it's this way, it actually looks like a Cheez-It. And my mom even said she almost threw it away, or she went to like pick it up and throw it away because I just had it sitting out on a side table in our living room. And then she realized it wasn't real. And it just delights me so much because I think it's so fun to have something that realistic. So I worked through most of the leg, the heel, the foot, and finished my sock. Okay, so details on this sock. For my perfect fit, I cast on 52 stitches at the top. I worked 20 rounds of ribbing. And then for this leg, I did, let's see, after the ribbing, I did about 65 total rounds. 55 rounds were just knit plain. And then the last 10 rounds I did, or last 12 rounds actually, so it's a little longer, I do increases before my Fish Lips Kiss Heel. Fish Lips Kiss Heel by Patty Joy White. And then I did some gusset decreasing. In total for my foot, I do about like 60 rounds for the foot from the heel. I wear a women's size 8. Obviously, everything's going to vary depending on gauge and your foot size, but just to give you a general idea. And then I like to do an ergonomic toe, which just means that I have a right and a left sock. There are, let's see, fewer decreases on the big toe side, more decreases on the pinky toe side. So instead of having like an even taper like this, it kind of goes like that. It's pretty hard to tell when you're just looking at the two socks, but it does make a difference, I find, in fit. Like you can't really even tell when I hold them up, but it does make a difference for me. I can tell when I'm wearing them, I have a little less extra fabric on my pinky toe. All of this stuff I teach in my Perfect Fit Socks class, so you can make custom fit socks for yourself if that's something that you desire to do. All right, that's that. I need to do some blocking. I have a couple of other pairs of socks that need blocking. I finished a pair for my mom a while ago and sent them to her for her birthday in October. I saw them. They were actually just sitting right here on a pile of clothes. She's definitely not worn them. That's okay. So I have that. I have a pair of socks I finished for my mother-in-law who we're going to see in Florida. And then I have these. So I think I'm going to give them all a block, hopefully today, while I have my tubs, my soaps, plenty of water, and also my sock blockers on hand. You're going to see my hair drying throughout this episode because I took a shower kind of late today. So don't mind that. It usually gets kind of like a slightly bigger and frizzy. It's not that voluminous, unfortunately, but it does get a little bit funny looking. All right. The only other project that I have worked on this week is one that I have revitalized that I was working on in the summer, and it has kind of a long story behind it. So this is probably going to be a longer bit of stuff to talk about, but I'm so excited to bring this blanket back. So let me just first tell you the pattern, because once I get into talking details, I always forget to talk about the pattern. So this is the Battenburg Blanket, and it is by Sandra Paul, who is, I think, like Cherry Heart or something like that. She's got a ton of really beautiful crochet blanket patterns, and I am so excited to have this going again. So about maybe Tuesday of last week, I just had the urge to bring this back out. I had finished, I finished all of my, all the yarn that I had at the time. I have more now for my crochet hexie blanket, so I didn't have anything crochet going on. And I was like, I really want to crochet, I really want to work on a blanket. And my other projects that I had lined up to finish by the end of November, like the socks, were going well. So I was like, well, I'm going to work on something that I really want to work on and ignore the other knitting whips that I don't feel like working on. And so I've had so much joy working on this week. So let's go back to June. Actually, June 5th is when I started this blanket. And I started with all of the colorful squares. This is how the pattern is written, to work all of the colorful squares. Actually, I guess you can do it however you want to, but it is said to work colorful squares separately. And then as you work the neutral square, you use it to join. And so, isn't that so cool how these like match up? I'm just blown away. I mean, this is how the designers looked, but I'm proud that mine looks like that too. It's so cool. Anyway, so I did all the colorful squares out of a Homespun House 2022 Advent. I started it in June, and this was my last project for my scrap-free 2023, which was where I was working through all of the Advents, mini skeins, and leftovers that I had to try to clear everything out before we started to travel. And I didn't quite get this one done for a couple of reasons. I wanted to, so my plan was throughout the month of June, I would work on one mini skein per day, so 24 days basically. And each mini skein gave me 6 of these squares. And I have changed the pattern slightly. All I've done is add an extra round. So if you work the original pattern, your squares are so small. These are about 3 inches in width, length. They're squares, so they're the same. About 3 inches, and I think the original one's like 2. That was a little too small for me. I did do a lot of playing around and planning and figuring out like, okay, if I have 2-inch squares, I can make this many per color and it will make this big of a blanket. And if I have 4-inch squares, it will do this. And I landed in the middle at 3-inch squares. It's early enough in the day that I haven't totally got my voice working yet. But anyway, I landed at 3-inch squares, and I figured out that I could make 6 per 20-gram mini, and that left me with like 2 grams left over. So I couldn't make another because each took 3 grams. Does that make sense? All this information is in my Ravelry project page. I've been adding details to it even now as I'm joining, because I want all the information to be there in case you want to make this blanket and adapt it to work with an Advent calendar. So all of the squares, or all of the colorful squares, have been made for a while. I completed that goal. I finished them. I think it was like the first couple of days of July I finished them, and I had them all in this baggie ready to go. So I thought this was like, just came to me, this idea to put all of the squares back into the labels that the mini skein came in. So you can see these are all squares, all 6. And that way I knew exactly which color this was, because I had previously figured out how I was going to assemble everything. I had laid out all of the colors. Actually, I'll put a picture of it here. This is what I'm using to attach everything now as I go. And I've been referring to that picture a lot, and it's been helpful to have everything still labeled. So then that brings us to the joining. Now, my original plan was to join and finish this blanket off in July. We were staying with my parents for the month of July before starting to travel in August. So I really wanted to have this big project like checked off my list. But I ordered more yarn from a Homespun House, and it arrived with 2 skeins missing. We still don't know what happened. Basically, something happened in transit, and either somebody intentionally or accidentally, it fell out, but like half of my package was gone. It wasn't just the 2 skeins of blanket yarn, but some sock sets. So anyway, that was such a bummer. So then Molly sent me another package to replace that one, and it got sent to Texas instead of Tennessee, where my parents live, because I used to have an address in Texas when I lived there. And as if that wasn't wild enough, this is time number 2 trying to get this joining yarn. I just so happened to be in Texas within a month of it arriving, and I thought to like reach out and ask, and I was able to pick it up at the post office a couple of days before it would have been sent back to Germany to a homespun house. So I was finally reunited with my yarn. I think that was at the end of September when I was there for DFW Fiber Fest. But at that time we were already on the road traveling. I had left these back in Tennessee, and also I was working on a lot of stuff for Rhinebeck, so it just wasn't a good time to work on the blanket. So I sent the 6 skeins back here, and when we got here a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago, I guess, I was finally able to join the blanket together. So what I got for my joining yarn is also a homespun house, and I got the colorway Antique. Is that going to show? And the first go, I just got Antique on her fingering weight base. And since we had to do a second order, because I didn't want to use 4 skeins that had been dyed together and then another 2, because I knew that they would look different. And so I'd rather have 6 that were all dyed at the same time. Molly had the idea of using gold stellina, and I'm so glad she had that idea because it is super fun. Let's see if this will... yeah, I think it's picking up actually on this camera. It's really sparkly in person. It's 5% gold stellina, and it is so pretty. It's so much fun. So I'm into my second skein now. I have 6 skeins, and I figured that out because I basically totaled up how many total grams were in those 24 20-gram minis, which is 480. And then I wanted to have a buffer. So I added, because 480 grams is 5 skeins, right? And then I wanted to add a buffer, so I added a 6 skein. I'm really glad that I did that. I also want to do a border, but I'm really glad that I did that because now I know, after having joined 3 rows like this, these 3 rows, 1, 2, 3, took 1 skein, and I have 16 rows going across. So I'm going to use, estimated now, 5 full skeins and a third of my 6th skein. So I'm really glad I got that extra 6th skein for contingency and for the border. I think I'll still have enough to do a small border on this, maybe not the border that was planned in the blanket, but we'll see. Okay, so this blanket, to sum it up, I have added a row to each square, so they're all around bigger, and then I have way fewer squares than the original Battenburg blanket, but other than that, it's the same. I'm working the squares the same, I'm joining them the same, and joining them has been so much fun. So the first 3 rows, I was joining together. This is the 3rd method of joining a blanket together that I have learned this year with crochet, which has been really fun. The first one was when I did a whole bunch of granny squares for Advent every year. For 4 years I did this, and then I learned a join as you go, a continuous join as you go method, which was cool. After that, I've been learning how to join as I go with my hexagon blanket, which is a join that happens on the right side of the fabric, so the side of the blanket that's facing you, and creates this like raised, like almost braided like edge. Super cool. It's a slip stitch join. This one is a single crochet join, and it creates a raised edge on the back. Kind of see that, right? Raised edge on the back. It's really pretty, and instead of doing it like you have your 2 squares and you piece them together, you work 1 whole neutral square, and then you do a round to join it, which has been really, really fun. And that's all in the pattern. This is a free pattern actually, and all the tutorials, video tutorials and everything are on YouTube, so you can look at them if you want to try it on your own blanket. So the first 3 rows were a little bit harder because you had to really look at my diagram. So I made this diagram. Let me see if I have it marked. Yeah. I made this diagram back when I planned. It is not to scale. This is 18 and 16. So this is actually the length, the 18, and this is the width, which I haven't drawn it proportionally like that. But the way I arranged the colors is I had colors 1 through 24 laid out, and I had them in groups of 3. And then I wanted them to be like evenly dispersed, but kind of have the look of random, and I wanted the colors to kind of go across the blanket. So I started over here in the corner and I just wrote 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then back across on the second row, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then again, with the next 3 colors, 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6. So essentially I'm using 3 colors dispersed over 2 rows going this way. Then the next 3 colors, and then the next 3 colors. And so my colors will go across the blanket this way. And I think it's looking really cool so far. Once I got through the first 3 joining rows, and I'm not far past that, it's actually become a lot simpler to know what's coming up next, because now I kind of have like these teeth. Every single row looks like this. And so all I'm having to do is make a neutral square, which will go here in between the teeth. And then I just have to join 1 colorful square on top. Whereas when I was down here, I had to really think through actually, I guess I was down here. I had to really think through okay, I need this color here and here and here and here. I had to join 4 colorful squares and really think about where to go. So now it's really easy. I can just go straight across. I think did I join 1 last night? Maybe down here? Ah, yes. I've just started in on my next one, which is color 7. So I did this square and then joined this one to the top. And then as I go here, I'll have a neutral square color 8, neutral square color 9, and it will just keep going like that. So it's a lot easier now that it's established. And I just think it's looking super pretty. I'm really happy with it. So this is the length of the blanket. I think it's going to make a really great, beautiful lap blanket. I am planning to continue working on this project throughout December. Even though it's not an Advent that I'm opening for 2023, it's still technically an Advent project, and it doesn't really matter. You don't have to work on Advent projects in December, but this is something that I want to work on and I want to finish. So I know this is going to be coming with me as we travel, and I'm going, right now, I'm just kind of adding squares here and there as I can. But once we get into Advent season, I might start to turn again. I might start to kind of say, oh, I want to have a daily goal of so many squares so that I can get it finished by Christmas time. I thought it might be fun to kind of review November and then talk a little bit about December project plans. That is top of mind for me right now because we're getting ready to leave again and be in our van, and I want to take with me the projects that I'm going to need for the month of December, but also I don't want to take too much, and I have a couple of Christmas presents still that I want to work on. So I was just actually writing my plans for December and realizing that there is more that I want to do than there is time to do it. And that's why I like making plans, because it helps me to be realistic with myself and also prioritize things that I really want to happen, like finishing gifts for people or enjoying my Advents and things like that. So let's talk about November first. I started out November with, I think, 9 or 8 whips maybe, and 2 things that I wanted to start and cast on. Whenever I do my project planning, it looks a little something like this. I do a brainstorming at the top where I just dump out first I start with all the whips that I currently have going. This chair just wants to turn. And then I put in any projects that I have in my mind. And then I'll cross out anything that doesn't that I'm you know what, actually, I'm not going to focus on this for the month. If I work on it, cool, but I'm not gonna make it a priority. And then I kind of or in this case, I number ordered 1 to 5 priority projects for myself. We'll talk about those and how they went. And then I will kind of write in weekly plans. Actually, in the case of November, I wrote in plans for each project one at a time, because in the Love and Stitches membership, we were focusing on a whip wrap up. So we were trying to finish as many whips as possible in order to kind of clear our needles and hooks for the month of December. And we did this with Twin Stitches Designs Patreon group, so it was a lot of fun. So I had, when we started in November, I had 2 pairs of Halloween socks on the needles. I had my Leading Men Fiber Art socks, a hat for Kent, the Beetlejuice hat. I had my MCal shawl, my tessellated still, my Battenburg blanket. I was separated from it at the beginning of the month, but I had it. My 50 States blanket, and those were all the whips I had. And then I wanted to make some cozies for my brother and another pair of socks for my mother-in-law. So I crossed out a lot of things right off the top that I wasn't prioritizing, but the things I did decide to prioritize were 1 pair of Halloween socks. That was my number 1 because they were the closest to being finished and I wanted them off the list and they're a gift. Then I wanted to make 2 cozies for my brother. Next, I wanted to finish Kent's Beetlejuice hat. Then I wanted to cast on another pair of socks for my mother-in-law. And then finally, I wanted to finish my Leading Men Fiber Arts socks. So this went pretty well this month. I had 3 already started whips that I wanted to finish that I have finished. And then I had 2 more things that I wanted to cast on. One of those I cast on and finished, and the other one is cast on, and I will continue working on it in the month of December. So the first thing that I finished was those socks from my mother-in-law, the Halloween socks. Actually, this would be more fun if I brought them in here with me, but I totally didn't. Actually, you know what? I'll go grab them. How about that? So I first finished these socks for my mother-in-law on November 9th, which felt really, really good because those had been started at the end of September. Then I cast on and finished these cozies. This one's for a bottle. This one is for a can for my brother. All of those were in my blocking pile. I have so much to block. Then I finished this Musselboro hat for Kent. Let's see, I finished this one on, I don't know why this is fun to me. I like to look at this. November 18th. So after that was done, I decided it was time to cast on project number 4, which is not completed yet and will not be done by the end of the month, but it is started. Oh man. And that is these socks. I'm calling them my Go Ducks socks. These are next on the priority list, as you'll see when I talk about December plans. And then I went a little out of order, I suppose, because I decided to finish these first because these were already a whip and we just talked about those. So that feels really, really good. I have 3 whips to finish and then 1 new cast on to finish for the month of November. Other than that, I didn't have any solid plans of what I wanted to work on. I was kind of prioritizing those whips, but then also just going with the heart by getting into the Battenburg blanket this past week. Now, I wrote out my December plans and I started the same way. I start with a brainstorm and I wanted to do like festive red and green, but I don't know if I kept, I don't know if I kept my Papermate pens for that. I don't know where they are right now. It wasn't worth looking. So I've gone for a pink festive theme. Oops, actually, I meant to go in and draw a little holly leaves there. I'll do that later. So I wrote out a ton of stuff. Here is what's on my mind for December. 1, I want to make Kent a mini tree skirt like I crocheted last week for myself. I want to do a Crochet Advent Baby Blanket, I think is what it's called, by Lucy and Crochet. That's going to be my Advent project, but I don't know which Advent yet. I want to make some socks with the Ruby and Roses mini skeins that I got. I want to make some socks out of this yarn from the Little Wolf Knits called Champs for Kent. It will be his first pair of hand knit socks. I want to make some socks out of a yarn that I have from Pretty Twisted Yarns. It's a Christmas color. I can't show you right now because it is a membership exclusive color that we are revealing on Wednesday. I guess by now, maybe the members will have seen it. Anyway, if you're looking for an exciting holiday themed yarn that's an exclusive, anyone who joins the membership in December will have the opportunity to order that colorway. I want to finish my duck socks, hold on, that I just showed. These are going to be a gift for my mother-in-law. I have the Battenburg blanket. I have some yarn from Wool and Women Fibers that I want to make socks out of. I need to make cozies for my brother's girlfriend that I got the Taylor Swift yarn for last week. I have my Hexie blanket. I have my Stephen West MCal, and I have my tessellated still. So pretty quickly, I was able to cross out tessellated and MCal because I'm not planning to work on those right now. Those projects need a big, long pause for me. I'm not interested. I have other things that I'm way more excited about. So I'm going to be leaving those here. I am thinking about leaving them somewhere where I can tell my mom, probably my mom, not my dad, but my mom, like, hey, could you mail this to me? It looks like this, if I get the urge to work on that at a later date. I also crossed out my Hexie blanket because while I'll continue to work on it, it's not a priority. I don't need to plan it out. I will just work on it as I get yarn. Crossed out my woolen women fiber socks because that, I'll talk about it more in news, is a kit that we are going to be casting on together in January. So I don't need to worry about that for December. And then that left me with a bunch of things that I really want to work on, but I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 things, and that's too many. So I prioritized 2 things. There's 2 presents that I want to finish, the socks, and then I also need to start and finish cozies for my brother. So that's when I get into the weekly planning. And you can see for each week I put Advent days. My days are a little different because I film Vlogmas actually I think I'm doing it 3 days ahead of time this year just to give us time to film and edit and like any contingencies for if we don't have Wi-Fi or if we're somewhere for several days where we don't have a couple of hours in the day to edit things, just giving us a lot of space this year because we are traveling more. So I wrote all that out. And then I was like, okay, I need to finish at least one present like during this first week. And then I just kind of planned out from there. Also, other things I wrote in is that there is a weekend here where we're going to be at Disney. So not only do I want to have a sock that's ready to go to work on at Disney, shouldn't be a problem with all the things that I have, but also I'm going to see my brother then. So I want to be able to give him his presents and his girlfriend's presents. So I need to finish those before I see them. That's as far as I've gotten. I'm not getting too crazy into this right now. We still have a few more days of December as I'm filming this, and I don't want to overwhelm myself. Usually I don't even write in this many project plans before the month begins. I kind of do it like as the weeks go on, but because I have to think about in the next couple of days what's going into the van, I really needed to do this. So I'm going to finish this up later today, but that kind of gives you an idea of what you can expect to see coming in December. I have a few acquisitions to share this week. The first is an order that came in the mail. This is from Bumblebee Acre Fiber Farm. And this was a colorway that we saw at Rhinebeck. Kent actually ended up purchasing one as a giveaway prize, but then later we realized, hey, maybe we actually want to have something out of this color, which by that I mean Kent wants me to make him a Musselburgh hat out of this colorway. This is called It Comes in Pints, and it is from Lord of the Rings. That's a Lord of the Rings. No, The Hobbit? No. I think it's Lord of the Rings reference. So it's a really pretty colorway. And the yarn that we got at Rhinebeck was a different base. So this one is one we picked out specifically for the Musselburgh. It is squishy sock and it's 75/25. And I think it's going to be really great. So that came in the mail. I am not prioritizing this right now. This is actually going to be a Rhinebeck hat for next year. So at some point in time, I'm going to be making Kent yet another Musselburgh hat, which is totally fine with me. Some of the other things I got this week came from Bliss Yarns, and it's not all yarn. There's some really cute little friends. So this just came in to Bliss, and they have a lot of things now that are really fun gifts that you can get for people. So I know what happens a lot this time of year, especially, this happens to yarn stores all the time, but especially this time of year, is people will come in that are non-knitters or crocheters, and they're looking for something to gift to the knitter or crocheter in their life. So that's probably not you watching the podcast right now, but I feel like I always suggest to people, if you're trying to buy for a knitter or crocheter, get them a gift card, let them pick out their own yarn, unless you really know what they like, because there's a lot going on with yarn and it's difficult to pick things out. But accessories, project bags, all kinds of things are super, super fun. So this is something that I think is going to make such a sweet addition to the van. So it's a little alpaca and its fur is so soft. It's actually alpaca and it feels so, so good. This is the company, but you can get them at Bliss Yarns, and there was all different kinds of them. Deb gifted this one to me, so thank you, Deb. I'm gonna cherish it. I need to name him, and maybe we'll make him a couple of accessories. You might see him in the background of the podcast, but I think the name right now we have going on is Wyatt. I don't know, Kent said that for some reason, and I was like, okay, I can see Wyatt. We'll make him Wyatt. So I'm really excited about that. I also got one of their new exclusive colorways from a Nashville dyer, which means this is going to go into my blanket. This is from Dusk to Dawn Fiber. Lindsay and Allie dye this yarn together, and this color is called Bliss Yarns. When they got this in on Small Business Saturday, by the time I got this one, there was only 2 skeins of fingering weight left. So there was DK and also I think a Surrey base, and it's such a pretty wintry color. So I'll be putting this into my Hexie blanket and then maybe do something else with it. I don't know yet. I mean, it's so pretty. Now it feels like this needs to be, if I end up making that blanket that's like a, what's it called? Intarsia map of the United States. It feels like this has to be the Tennessee color, or the Tennessee, color. And then one last thing I got at Bliss, also a gift from Deb, is this ornament. So perfect for the non-knitters in your life as well. It is a crochet pierogi, which is so cute, little eyes and everything on it. It's made out of that really nice velvety yarn that feels so, so soft. And Deb's sister, I believe, makes these. They had also these really cute, big, like tater tots, and what else was there? There was pickles. There were all kinds of different shapes and things, and some of them had little sayings on them, little sassy sayings. Really, really cute. This was the last pierogi though, so Deb was like, you have to take a pierogi. And if you are unfamiliar with a pierogi, because I didn't know what a pierogi was until I moved to New York, it's probably going to describe it wrong now. I should have double checked with Google. I have eaten them. I ordered a ton at Rhinebeck on accident. They're like this, is it a pastry on the outside? Oh man, I'm going to do a bad job describing it. They're really delicious, filled with either like potato, onion, cheese, or I don't know, it can be filled with a variety of different things. So basically a warm, savory filled deliciousness. That's a pierogi. Horrible, horrible description of a pierogi, but if you ever see them on a menu somewhere, you should try them. Last thing was also in the mail, and this one is a bit of an announcement too, because this is a kit that I have collaborated with Woolen Women Fiber on, and we're really, really excited about it. You might have caught our live last Friday where we revealed the kit and talked about it, but this one is available online for order through December 25th. So this is the Greatest Yarny Adventure Kit. So we started with the project bag, and when Andrea reached out to me, she asked me about, making basically forming this curated box that has a bag, yarn, and stitch markers. I'll show you those too. That kind of just represents the adventure that we're on right now, traveling around. And we talked about maybe doing like a favorite place that I've been or something like that. And I was just like, I don't know, I can't pick a favorite place. We've only been to a handful of states so far. We haven't been to all 50 states. So I don't want to pick a favorite place just yet, maybe in the future. But then she found all these beautiful fabrics that were kind of representing either travel or the outdoors. And so this was my favorite one that she showed me. It's got mountains and trees, and a lot of the best places I think that we've been have been very mountainous. That's something that's so different for me. Growing up over here, there are some mountains, but not not a lot in Nashville. There's hills, you know? So we started with that. And from there, it moved into the yarn that Andrea has dyed. So here is the Greatest Yarny Adventure colorway. You can get it either in the skein, which is a 100 gram 75/25 superwash merino and nylon. It's a 2-ply, which I really love, a 2-ply base. And it comes with 2 minis. I think these are each 10 grams. Beautiful, goes with the bag. Or you can get it in a sock blank. There's actually 2 options for the sock blank. This one is the fingering weight sock blank, which just means it is fingering weight yarn that has been dyed in the blank, and you just unravel it as you knit. It comes with the 2 minis as well. Or you can get the DK weight sock blank, and the DK weight sock blank is not a single strand, it's 2 strands of fingering together. So you can either hold the 2 strands of fingering weight together and have DK weight yarn, or you can separate those 2 skeins of fingering weight as you knit and make 2 identical socks, or 2 identical somethings. Whatever you do with it is your choice. So those are the options for the yarn. The yarn is the base of the kit, and then you can choose to add on the project bag, and oh gosh, there is 2 stitch markers, and that is my favorite part. So Andrea and Sam are twins, and they are in this business together. Andrea makes the bags, dyes the yarn, and Sam makes the most amazing stitch markers. So the stitch markers for this kit are Lydia, our van, and Toaster. Hold on, this is not showing it well. Let's see if I can get Toaster in there. And Toaster, which is super, super sweet. So I sent pictures of the van, and this represents it perfectly. The coolest part about this, aside from being like identical to our van, is there's a headlight with glow in the dark clay. So the headlight actually glows in the dark, which is so fun. And they are on those round, I love these fasteners. These are becoming my favorite, the round lever backs. So they're great because you can easily have them on your needle as a stitch marker, or you can open them up and use them for crochet, or use them as a progress keeper. So that is the Greatest Yarny Adventure Kit. You can order it from Woolen Women Fibers. I'll have the link down below, and it is a pre-order, so it's going to be open through Christmas, through December 25th, and then they're going to ship in January, and then we can work on them together in January. I am hoping to actually, I need to write this on my December plans. I want to get started on socks out of both yarns. That way I can kind of show what the difference is between the dyed in the skein and dyed in the blank and how they look different, but there's only so many hours in the day. I need more hands to knit things. Maybe in the future, not now. I can get myself a sock tube machine, because that would help me like crank out samples of sock yarn so much faster, especially since I am getting the pleasure of doing so many fun different collaborations with people. Okay, I think that's everything that has come in this week. So let's move on to our questions. The question segment is going to be getting phased out through the end of this year because we're going into a new year soon. I know, not quite yet. It's like almost too early to talk about that. And I like to kind of change things up year over year, or sometimes in the middle of the year. And our questions have been getting like slightly less in volume since the middle and beginning of the year. And so I just felt like, you know what, it's time to kind of phase things out. Now, I'm still planning to do my best to answer questions in comments, so you can still feel free to ask questions, and I'm going to be answering them on the podcast throughout the end of the year. But just, I want to say this for several weeks in the podcast, I am going to be phasing out this question segment, and that brings me to another thing. I want to add in a new segment for the new year, and I think it would be fun to do something related to our travels. We're going to be traveling all of next year and doing so many like interesting things. And I feel like I haven't really done the best job of sharing those things with you. So I would like to do that. I want to do some kind of travel segment. I know I talk about life, but not as specific to the actual travels. I more just say like where we're going. So if you have any ideas for me, please leave them down below. Anything you'd like to see in this sort of travel segment, if you would like us to like add in a short video every single week of somewhere that we've been, or I don't know, talk more about the yarn stores or something. I don't know. There's a lot of directions we can go. I'm just starting to think about it, but I'd love to hear what you want to see as I begin planning that. All right, let's get into this week's questions though. We do have a few questions from the last episode as well as the episode before that we had not gotten to yet. First question is from Jane. I have a question about the yardage requirements for the Musselburgh hats. I've noticed yours always seem to use a whole 100-gram skein or less. I can never finish my Musselburgh hats without running short. I am getting gauge and using fingering weight yarn and knitting size medium or large, and I always run out. Do you have any suggestions as to what I'm doing wrong? Okay, great question. Now, the Musselburgh hat can definitely be done with 100 grams or less, dependent on size and also like length of how long you're making it. So for Kent, I actually have his right here, so this is perfect. For Kent, this one is far less than 100 grams because it is super short. I make his the adult size medium, but it's actually kind of in between a medium and a large because I follow instructions for a gauge of 8 stitches per inch, but I'm actually getting 7.5, so it makes it a little bit bigger. But the most important thing about figuring out how much yarn you're going to need for the Musselburgh hat is weight. You're going to have a scale with you. And every hat is going to be different depending on your gauge. I know you said you're getting gauge, but I'm curious as to what that means. Which gauge are you getting? Because the hat can be knit in tons of different gauges. And I'm not sure if in the pattern it actually says you need, X amount of yarn for this gauge and this length. Like there's just so many different variables that it's really best to have your own scale, and then while you're knitting your own hat, you can weigh it. That's the only way to guarantee, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So weigh your yarn before you begin. Or if you've already started, you can weigh like your hat and your yarn on top. You'll need to subtract the weight of your needles. And then you can weigh as you're knitting. Once you get to close to 50% of your yarn, so if you have a skein that's exactly 100 grams and you're approaching 50 grams on the scale of yarn left, that's when you need to stick a marker in here and say, this is halfway. And I would give yourself a little bit of wiggle room. I like to give myself about 4 extra grams. So that's 2 grams on each side of the hat, right? So 100 grams, let's say I'm knitting. I think this is like halfway, right? And once I get to right here, I have 54 grams remaining. So that's 4 grams of buffer. Wait, no, that's not right. 52 grams remaining, right? That would mean I used 48 grams on this side of the hat, which means I'll need 48 grams for the other, and I have 4 grams of wiggle room. Is that math right? I think that's right. I think that is. Anyway, do the math yourself and then be weighing it. But I put a marker in the middle. If I'm trying to use up all the skein, I'll put a marker there, and then I can knit my other side of my hat exactly the same as this one, but having that 4 grams of buffer or a little more if you want to be extra safe really will get you out of a bind, because your gauge can't be perfect throughout. You're not a machine, so you might have a little bit of differences. Now, once you make that initial hat, doing it that way, you'll actually see like, okay, when I'm knitting my size, I can get this length out of it. You may not actually like the length that you get out of it. And in that case, you might actually just need, I'm saying actually a lot, you might just need more than 100 grams, and that's okay. But then you'll know how much you can eke out of one skein of yarn. Hope that helps. I hope that makes sense. But a scale is always going to be your friend when it comes to using as much yarn as possible. All right, so this question is from Blue elf with wings. Hi Natalie, newish knitter here. I've been knitting for about a year now and I struggle with pain in my wrists and elbows a lot whenever I knit for more than 20 minutes at a time, to the point that I sometimes need to take a break from knitting for several days or even a week if I've pushed through the pain too much because the pattern was so addicting. I'm wondering if you have any tips or know of any resources of how I can build up resilience and stamina in my joints and muscles. I have found some stretches for the wrists and they do seem to help a little bit, but I'm not aware of any exercises for the elbows. Sadly, I have a history of troubles with carpal tunnel already, so I don't want to risk a repeat of that, and would of course love to be able to knit a bit more and pain-free. Thank you for your reply and greetings from Germany, Katya. Okay, great question and one that I see a lot. And first of all, let's just say you do not want to have pain when you're knitting or crocheting. If you have pain, that's usually a sign that something is not right. Either that the way that you're knitting, like the way that you set yourself up is not ergonomic, or that you've like tweaked something or injured something, or you could just simply be doing too much. Now, I am not a doctor. I'm also not an expert in this. I only really know what works for me. But somebody who is an expert is the Knitting PT. Her name is Andrea Louie, and I'll put her Instagram down below. But I would give her a follow and look through. She's got a whole bunch of resources, a whole ton of reels about all different parts of your body. She's a physical therapist and also a knitter. And so she talks about knitting specifically in her Instagram. So some things that I've gleaned from this is that one, setting yourself up properly, like the way that you knit and crochet is really, really important. So Andrea suggests filming yourself and seeing how you're set up. Our body wants to be in a neutral state. So if you're knitting way up here, you're not getting your, you're not giving your joints like the proper angles that they need. Your arms, as much as possible, should be back so that your shoulders are aligned. Your elbows, as much as possible, should be 90 degrees, but down here, and same for your wrists. If you're knitting, like you may not even realize it, but your wrists are like that, that's gonna be a problem. So trying your best to make small changes is gonna be really, really helpful. The other thing is whenever you are in pain, stopping and taking a break is actually the best thing you can do. Actually, before you're even in pain, stopping every 20 to 30 minutes to get up, to stretch, to move things around is so important because that repetitive motion from knitting and crochet can really tighten and like make things not want to work properly or like have as much movement as they need. Andrea also does something really cool. I keep meaning to do this. Actually, I should totally do this for the van because I'm often not in the greatest positions when I'm knitting in there, but she has a paid consulting like consultant sort of hour where she will get on with you via video and watch you to knit and crochet and give you tips on how to make things more ergonomic. Get yourself really set up so that you have that longevity with knitting and crochet that you are really wanting. My one last thing for you is this makes such a huge difference for me. Anytime I'm working with a larger, longer, heavier project, or I'm doing something that requires like close up looking like seaming, or when I'm crocheting these Battenburg squares together, is having a pillow in your lap to raise your knitting to your level. That way you're not hunched way over trying to work on something. That just kills everything, shoulders, all of that. And then everything that's happening up here affects all of the smaller things down here. So your elbow pain may not actually be from something that's happening at the elbows, but something that's happening up here, and it just travels down. So sometimes I'll even use like a full project bag and just set it underneath my project to prop things up so that I don't have a lot of weight pulling down on things. Actually, that wasn't the last thing. I just thought of another one. Take a look at the needles that you're using. Sometimes I'm curious, you said you're a newer knitter. I wonder if you learned on straight needles. If you are working on straight needles, I would definitely make a switch to circular needles. You can use circular needles to work flat and to work in the round. And they're so much better on your hands because they don't have that like weight out there. You can kind of like naturally curve your hands and fingers in such a better way. That can really help just playing with the needles that you're using. So I hope you find something that helps you. Don't aggravate it, especially because knitting and crochet uses a lot of the same like tiny muscles and tendons that we need for other things, like moving a mouse at work or typing on our phones. And all of this just contributes to a lot of pain. I find too that when I do yoga, it helps with my knitting stamina a lot. I'm planning to do yoga in December again. Yoga with Adrienne is a free YouTube channel that has, usually in December, she does a new yoga practice every single day. And I've done that in the past. And when I do that, I find that I can knit for so much longer. There's something about like putting the weight and pressure on the hands that like stretches everything, strengthens everything, and just makes it better for my back, my neck, my hands, everything, and really contributes to my knitting. I should be doing this all the time, but I'm going to try to amp it back up in December. All right, question number 3 is loading. Guess I'll get a sip of coffee while I wait for it to load. Oh, here it goes. This one is from Casey. Okay, I've just started getting into crochet, thanks in part to your enthusiasm for it. I'm planning to start a granny square blanket with an advent this year and am trying out the pattern. It's called the Sunburst Granny Square or Granny Blanket with some scrap yarn. I've tried a few different needle sizes and they both ripple a bit, especially the larger needle size. Should I try an even smaller needle? Will blocking help? Any other pre-planning I should do with crochet? I want to make sure it's right before embarking on a large project. Awesome. Okay, Casey, you are on the right track with doing all of this prep for your blanket. This is going to help you so much. And then on December 1st, you're just going to be able to open your advent and get started, hit the ground running, and you're not going to have that frustrating, like starting the project, ripping things out, all of that happening. So you're definitely on the right track. You know what I didn't look up? Who's the Sunburst Granny Blanket by? I have let me see, hold on. Sunburst Granny Blanket. Let's see. Okay, there's a lot of them, so never mind. I don't know who you're making it by. What I was gonna say is, when I first started out on my Hexie blanket, I had to spend a lot of time practicing and playing with the pattern because it was rippling. Now you're trying out different hook sizes, which is great. Definitely try out different hook sizes and see what works best for you. You can go down a hook size and see if you like that. But not only are you testing for, do I like the way that this comes out, but also, do you like the fabric? Is it too dense? Is it too loose? Do you enjoy working with that hook size? Like, is it comfortable for you? Are you going to enjoy this as a long-term project? So you always want to land somewhere that's a balance between liking the way it looks and liking the way it feels, and that's going to be the best project for you. Now, if you're still getting rippling once you land on a hook size that you like, you may need to make some adjustments into the pattern. With the Hexie blanket, there are puff stitches in it, which I do see in the Sunburst, and for some reason, no matter what I tried with this blanket that I was recently working on, I could not get it to stop rippling until I actually made changes to the stitches themselves. So I made very mild changes. Essentially, if the puff stitch called for like four goes of like yarn over, go into the stitch, yarn over, go into the stitch, I did 3 instead. And I tried that for one square, and it helped so much. So you may need to make a couple of modifications to your pattern, because whatever it is, it's not that the designer is incorrect in how they're doing it. There might be something about your gauge, there might be something about their gauge as far as stitches to height ratio that just isn't coming out right for you. And that's okay. Everyone's a little bit different. You can still get the same look while making small minor changes to those stitches to change things. So as I was formulating my new Hexie blanket pattern, I would do the first round and I would lay it flat. And I was like, okay, it's flat. The first round is not the problem. Then I would do the second round according to pattern. And I was like, ooh, it's rippling. Something is wrong with the second round. So I would take it out. I would retry it with like fewer stitches in the puffs. Like if there's 18 puffs in my blanket, I didn't take away a puff. I just took away stitches within the puff. Does that make sense? Or the bobble or whatever you're doing. And that really seemed to help. So then I did my new round 2. I wrote it down. I was like, great, it's still flat. Then I did round 3 according to the pattern. It started to ripple. I'm like, oh, took back round 3. tried round 3 again, it's flat. So just keep going through that, and by the time you get to Advent, hopefully, you will have sorted out exactly how it's going to work for you. It's frustrating in the beginning, of course, but it makes such a difference in the long run. And blocking may help, but it can't really get rid of extra fabric. You know what I mean? Like it can't get rid of extra bulk that's there. It can only kind of serve to quiet things down. So if you're getting a lot of rippling, it's probably better to make some edits into your pattern. Good luck. Okay, Tori asked, I love all the yarn you showed off today. Just wondering, what's a doodle? Okay, so last week I was talking about, or no, this was 2 weeks ago maybe, I was talking about doodle yarn. And doodles are a colorwork pattern project that is from Jamie Lomax, who is Pacific Knit Co. We'll put a picture of one of them here. This is the Rhinebeck doodle cowl. So essentially, doodles are a whole set of colorwork patterns. There's tons and tons and tons of cowls, I think hats and other things in Jamie's patterns, and I'll link her patterns down below. But there are so many fun things you can do with them. The other cool thing that she has done with doodles, oh, and it's called a doodle because it's kind of like coloring with yarn, making colorwork things. But more so for her specifically, she has created these amazing decks of cards. I think you can also digitally get just a bunch of charts that you can do the same thing with, but she's created these decks of cards that have each colorwork motif on them. So you can buy like the Rhinebeck deck. I have the Rhinebeck deck, and you can pick out maybe 5 different motifs to put together into a cowl and use those. And then if you make it again, you can, change some out or use new motifs. And it's really, really fun. In the Love and Stitches membership in January, we are going to be doodling. That is going to be our make along for the month of January. And we are most likely, I'm working on it right now, I'm going to have a class with Jamie so she can teach us all about doodles. So if that's something that interests you, the Love and Stitches membership is opening in December. I'm really excited about everything we're planning, so I'm probably going to be dropping lots of little hints to what's coming up in the membership in this episode. Okay, I think, is this the last? Oh no, 2 more questions. Oh no, this is the last one, I think. Let me see. Yes. Okay. This question is from Genia. I have a pattern that is a knitted infinity scarf. In brackets, it has knit or K31 P. It looks like an L, I think. PL. I know K means knit. Does the PL mean purl, or does it mean something else? My book doesn't say what it means. Thank you, and I love watching your podcast and all the adventures. Can't wait to see the next one. Have a wonderful day and happy Thanksgiving. Sending hugs to Toaster. Aw, you are super sweet to say all of that. Okay, so let's look at the brackets. K31 and then PL. I don't know what PL means either because I have never seen PL before. I am curious though, maybe take a look back at your book. Does it say PL or does it say P1? P1 would mean purl 1, same as K31 means knit 31. PL is to me not a standard thing that I would ever see. So I don't know what that means either. Usually purl is just P, not PL. It's either P or it's spelled out fully PURL. So that's a new one for me as well. So I would guess that it says P1 to purl 1. You can kind of figure this out on your own. How many stitches do you have? Do you have 32 stitches? If so, you'll have 1 stitch left to purl. That may be the case. If your book, so this is a pattern from a book. Usually in a book, either in the front or the back, there's a glossary of terms. And it will say, like K means knit, P means purl, whatever there. But you're saying it doesn't have that, which is really frustrating. I would be annoyed, especially with a book. In knitting and crochet patterns as well, there's usually an abbreviations table or a key somewhere that has that information in there. I would say that using your best guess based on how many stitches are left. And, oh wait, but what if you're repeating this? I would look at the photo, I would guess with how many stitches are left and see what makes the most sense. Is this a one stitch thing, P1, or just PL for purl? You're probably just gonna have to make an educated guess here because I honestly don't know either. I've never seen that abbreviation in my life, and I wanna say that they made it up. Or they just made their own, which is like, cool, make your own abbreviations, but you gotta label them, right? All right, if you have any questions for me, please leave them down below. Put hashtag question in the front. We're going to continue to do this question segment throughout December, but again, I'll be phasing it out in the new year, or phasing it out in December and replacing it in the new year with something related to travel. So if you have any ideas for me, you can leave those down below as well. The newest video this week is the last Tuesday video of the year because we're going into Vlogmas next, but it is an Advent video. It's all about 10 new patterns that I have found for Advent this year. I've actually found more than 10. There was just 10 that I was like, okay, I need to limit this on what to highlight. So I share all of these 10 patterns with you, but I've also been adding to my bundle on Ravelry. So I've created a public bundle. You can view all of the patterns there. It's all patterns from across Ravelry that I personally have gone through, not the pattern in full because I haven't purchased all the patterns, so disclaimer there. But I've looked through all the notes and I've like gone, okay, this would be a great Advent pattern. This is something that I would make. There are knit and crochet patterns. The majority are knitting patterns. There are a lot of crochet ones as well though. And I've probably added 20 new ones in the past couple of weeks, in addition to the ones that are in the video, or including the ones that are in the video. But in the video, I go into a little more detail about which ones that I think are really special and exciting for this year. And then at the end, I share all of my Advents and I talk about what my plans are going to be for this year. I go really briefly through my Advents, so just a heads up, it will be in more detail in Vlogmas. And then coming up, there's no more Tuesday videos for the year. Instead, daily vlogs from December 1st through December 26th. I've actually decided to do a day 0 this year because I have so many Advents that I wanted to have plenty of time to share all of the extra fun things that come in the Advents, plus how I'm organizing it for the van. And I was like, there's no way I have time to like film this on the first day of Advent and actually open day 1 Advent. So I'm going to separate them. So I did that previously ahead of time. And then I will be filming daily for Advent's day 1 through 25. So just so you know, there's going to be day 0 coming out on December 1st, and then day 1 will come out on December 2nd. I actually like this a little bit more than what we did last year, which was film ahead of time. We're still filming ahead of time, but film 2 days ahead of time. So we have a filming day, an editing day, a posting day, and they just overlap through the rest of December. This worked really great last year for us, but it meant that December 1st Advents were posting on December 1st. So I know if you are opening that Advent as well, you may see it on my video before you see it yourself. So now I'm going to be posting day 1 Advents on December 2nd. So that way you've probably have already seen them. I think that will be good. I don't know. You can let me know what you think. I got to keep an eye on my mic here. It's about to die. So that's coming up. And then real quickly, a few other things. The Woolen Women Fibers, the Greatest Yarny Adventure box is on sale through December 25th. We showed all of that earlier. Also, oh my goodness, I still haven't started these yet, but I want to get them started this week. The Little Wolf Knits Champs colorway. This is the colorway that Kent and Brianna dyed together when we were in Pennsylvania. Has been extended by 1 more day. So it is on sale through December 1st. It's a pre-order, and then she'll be dyeing them the next week and sending them out. Let's see. The Love and Stitches membership opens on Tuesday, December 5th. I have started sending out emails to the waitlist, giving you a preview of what's going on in the membership so that you can join us in a temporary Discord, get used to what all that is about. And then when you, or if you choose to join us on December 5th, then you can join us in the Love and Stitches membership Discord. There is so many fun things coming up. For December specifically, we have an exclusive colorway from Pretty Twisted Yarns that is holiday themed. It's really, really cute. Then we are going to be doing lots of meetups to talk about working on mini skein things. So that's going to be very fun. We're going to do a movie night. And then moving into the new year, in January, we are going to work on doodles. We're going to have Jamie Lomax teaching us all about doodles. And if you're a crocheter, because the doodles are focused on knitting, if you're a crocheter, any type of color work will work for our make-along. And then in February, we're going to be working on assigned pooling. I have a knitwear designer and a crochet designer that do assigned pooling patterns that we're going to talk to. And then we're going to do another exclusive colorway with Barker Wool, who really originated that assigned pooling dye technique. So it's going to be a whole lot of fun. All the information is down below, so check it out. If you have any questions, shoot me an email. That's the best place to ask questions because Instagram messages are not very great or reliable. Last thing, I'm going to be at Eat Sleep Knit in Dallas, Georgia on Thursday, November 30th, which is today, if you're watching it today, from 5 to 7 p.m. It's their knit night, and we are coming through on the way to visit my brother-in-law. So we decided we would stop there and get to see Eat Sleep Knit. I've heard so many good things about it, so I am very excited to visit. Most of this week has really been spent prepping to leave. I've been doing some shopping, doing some ordering, doing a lot of cleaning in the van, and then prepping my knitting. I've been prepping my advents. I've been prepping my projects, just all getting ready to head back out on the road. This has been a really nice time resting and relaxing and rejuvenating at my parents', but also it's been a great opportunity for us to kind of flip things over in the van. We've traveled for about 3 months on the road before we took a month like staying with friends. And so we really have a better sense now of what we actually need. We're also kind of switching things for the season, although we're going to be in the South for the better part of the beginning of next year. So I'm like, do I still bring shorts? What do I bring? I don't know. So trying to figure all of that stuff out. So that's what I've been doing most of the week. But Thanksgiving happened this past week. We had Thanksgiving at my brother's house. His wife set up a beautiful table, cooked a ton of food. We came over early in the day. We did a walk around their neighborhood so we can have our own turkey trot with the dogs. Then we came back in and got started on some of the dishes. I helped with a couple of things, not a ton. I really got it really easy this year, but that was great. My sister-in-law also made some really yummy appetizers, and we had so many appetizers that I was only hungry enough for one plate at Thanksgiving, which is very unusual for me. But once all the food was prepared and everything, we had my parents there, we had her parents, my sister-in-law's parents there, and grandmother, and it was a really nice time. So one of my brothers was there, the one that's married to my sister-in-law, and then my other brother came later on, and then my last brother wasn't able to come this year, but we're going to be seeing him soon. So that's all good. That was great. And then the rest of the day, we just kind of spent hanging out. The dogs really are getting along great now with Toaster, and so that was really, really nice. On Saturday, it was Small Business Saturday, and we spent a couple of hours at Bliss. We got Lydia, our van, all cleaned and spruced up and emptied out. We emptied out a lot of stuff. I hope it can look close to that when we leave again. I really hope it does. But we emptied it out. We kind of set it up all nice so that people could come and take a look at it at Bliss. Deb and I did an Instagram live. So if you go to Bliss Yarns Instagram, you can see a tour of Lydia. We haven't given a tour anywhere except for on, oh my gosh, Knit Stars, their membership. So there's kind of our first public tour. And so we gave a tour. Deb asked me some questions. It was really fun. And then we spent about an hour just kind of talking to people and letting them go through the van. And then we spent the last hour inside at Bliss where I picked up my goodies and knit with everybody. So that was really fun. Then on Sunday, that's when it was really a big like chores and errands day. I got a lot of the van reorganized. One of my biggest sticking points was that I had yarn everywhere, which is like not a problem in a sense that like I'm so grateful to have so much yarn, but like it was in the way. Like logistically, it was a problem. And I didn't have enough space to put my current projects that I was working on. And I didn't have enough space to hang on to like prizes and giveaways and things. And I didn't have a place to have all my shipping stuff. It was just, there was some kinks that needed to be worked out. So I'm really happy with how I have things arranged now. I ended up kind of bringing inside a lot of extra project things that I didn't need. Like I know now when I leave, I'm only bringing the projects that I'm going to be working on. I don't need to bring extra stuff. So that saved a lot of space. And then I got rid of a lot of cups and things. I brought like 2 water bottles, 2 coffee cups, an extra water cup. I need one. 1 water cup, 1 coffee cup. That is all I need. That's all I've been using when I was in the van and here. So I really didn't need all that extra stuff. And that allowed me to take space, a big basket that was kitchen stuff, and put all of my shipping and printing things in there. And then I have a little extra room that I can store some yarny prizes. So I worked on that all of yesterday, and I'm going to be continuing it over the next couple of days. And then we're leaving on Thursday, actually. So that was really good. And then I also spent yesterday getting my Advents organized. You will see that in Vlogmas Day 0. So I'm not going to spoil too much of that, but I had a lot of fun, even though it took me forever. It took me way longer than I thought, but I opened up all of my extras because a lot of them I'm not going to be taking with me if they're like full skeins or bags or things like that. But I wanted to have all my Advents really, really easy to get. So I ended up sorting them into Ziploc bags, like all of day 1 is together, all of day 2 is together. And then I got this huge tote bag thing to store them all in. So that will be on the floor of our van, but hopefully that's the only yarn that is actually there. I've also been reading a lot this week. I finished 2 books. First, I finished A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J. Maas. That was book 3.5 of the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. I have 1 more book to go. I'm just waiting to get it from the library. So I'm excited to read that and kind of finish the series. When I started the series, I was very much resistant to it. I didn't really care for the books. And now they're kind of like, it's like I know the characters. It's different. I don't know how to explain it, but I'm enjoying them and it feels very comforting to read those books now. And then I started and finished a whole nother book. I actually just finished it this morning. I was hoping to finish it next week so I could show it next week, because I don't think technically these books go up on Book of the Month until tomorrow, because tomorrow is December 1st, but just pretend you didn't see it yet. So this is one of my December Book of the Month books. It is A Winter in New York by Josie Silver. It is about, okay, so here's just a little thing in the front. A young chef stumbles upon a secret family recipe that might lead her to the love and the life she's been looking for. So it is a British girl that comes over to New York, kind of escaping a relationship. And she meets this guy that is definitely a New Yorker, owns a gelateria, and did I say that right? Gelateria. And it's just a really cute book. It is essentially a Christmas rom-com in a book. I could not put it down. I thought it was excellent. It brought me to tears several times. Sweet and good to read. A couple of trigger warnings for this book. One is, I would just say, like death of a parent is a reoccurring theme in this book. So that can be difficult. I know, especially this time of year. It's not super intense, but it is referred to over and over again. So I just wanted to kind of, let you know in case that is something that's happened to you recently, because I wouldn't want you to read and be sad by this book. Other than that, really, really great. There's a couple of mentions to like a difficult relationship, but it's not super intense. But other than that, just a really sweet. Oh, and death of a spouse. There's quite a few things in there, but really, really good overall, and like not harboring on those things, but those things are brought up in the book. So very, very good. And then the last thing I have been watching, I think I've watched just over half of a season of Real Housewives Salt Lake City season 4, which is the current season that we're in here. I renewed my Peacock membership and have been watching in like 3-4 episode sprints. think it's so funny. It's great reality TV and I absolutely love it and I will not apologize for it. It's kind of perfect for this time of year because when they were filming, it was winter and it's like snowing and stuff. So it's been a really fun watch. We're going to wrap things up with a tip of the week. And this week I'm actually answering a question that I got. I just worked the Fish Lips Kiss heel for the first time and I love the construction. My question is, when you use a contrast color, how do you get back to the main color? The Fish Lips Kiss heel ends at the opposite side from where it begins. Thanks for any tips and all of the great content. I'm going to try to answer this without having one in my hand, so walk through this with me here. I do have a Fish Lips Kiss heel, just not a contrast one and not one in progress right now. So this is the Fish Lips Kiss heel. It's a short row heel. The pattern is from Patty Joy White, and it looks really, really good with a contrast color because it ends up being like nice and square. It looks really great. So here's how you do it. First, when you start the Fish Lips Kiss heel, don't cut your main color. Leave it alone. Join your contrast color in and work the entire heel up until the last row. The last row, when you're done, I'm trying to imagine this, the last row when you're done, you've got 2 twin stitches on either side of your heel. The twin stitches on the right-hand side are like on your right-hand needle. They're not set up to knit them, right? You've got all your stitches on the left-hand needle, and then these 2 twin stitches out here like on their own. This is what you're going to do. You should have your main color like right here. And what the instructions say are to knit back across with your heel color, and then you're over here and that doesn't work. So this is what you're going to do on the last row. You're going to ignore that. You're going to cut your contrast color, and these 2 twin stitches that are over here, you're going to move them to the left-hand needle. Just slip them over. So now all on your left needle, you've got 2 twin stitches, all your stitches in the middle, 2 twin stitches, and your main color should be right here ready to go. And when you work this next row, that'll be the first row of your foot, you work your twin stitch together, knit all the way across, twin stitch together, twin stitch together. And everything is cleaned up and good to go. It actually, I think, closes up that Fish Lips Kiss heel better than waiting to go all the way back around to grab those 2 twin stitches over there. If you haven't made a Fish Lips Kiss heel, that probably made 0 sense, but hopefully that helps this person, a Pickle Walk Sloth Knit 5004, or anyone else who has worked the Fish Lips Kiss heel. In my Perfect Fit Socks course, I do have instructions on that, so if you own that already and want to go take a look at that, that will be in there. I've got how to do it with a contrast color and how to do it without. All right, everyone, I made it to the end without running out of battery on my microphone. Hooray! So I'm going to close things out here. Thank you so much for watching. I'm so very excited for Vlogmas to start. I can't even tell you, I feel like this year for sure I am ready. I have like a totally different mindset when it comes to how I feel about my projects. Actually, you're probably going to see me do something surprising and maybe not start my projects on day 1. You'll have to wait and see. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.